So this is the Mazda CX-30, and it's a small crossover that I think you'll be seeing a lot more of. And if you're shopping in this universe, definitely a machine that's worthy of some of your consideration. In this video, we're going to take it for a spin and then look at a couple of the key ways that it's built to give you a confidence boost when you're out and about in the snow. You're looking at a high-grade CX-30 GT, and this one's wearing its winter boots, and yours should be too if you'll be driving in conditions like these. It's Michelin X-Ice rubber on this machine. These are the winter tires I put on my own cars if you want a recommendation. The unit on your screen here lands a little north of 34,000 Canadian, though you are into a CX-30 with all-wheel drive from the high 20s if you like. And if you're wondering how CX-30 conducts itself in the snow, then you found the right video. This will be sort of a mashup of some winter test drive notes from a recent drive in Northern Ontario, and also I've got some footage I think the sportier drivers out there will like to help illustrate how entertaining this vehicle actually is in the context of a winding snow-covered back road. And for a list of what's good on a sub-$30,000 all-wheel drive these days, check out the link in the description below to that story over on Driving.ca. If you click like, subscribe, and notify while you're down there, you'll never miss a new upload. It's 186 horses from the upgrade level 2.5-liter Skyactiv 4-cylinder with all four wheels driven and power transmitted via 6-speed automatic. By the way, Mazda's all-wheel drive system is fully automatic and requires no driver input or decision-making, though an off-road drive mode, selectable here, can be engaged if you need it in challenging conditions like very deep snow or certain off-road settings. But really, point and shoot. If you've got your winter tires on, you really just drive this thing, point, steer. It moves very nicely over slippery terrain. The all-wheel drive system always feels like it knows what it's doing, too. I'd say the design department is similarly on the ball, wouldn't you agree? It is a sleek and curvaceous collection of accents and slashes and shapes that all looks polished and finished, and that chrome grille looks pretty sharp, too. There's a good stance to it, the wheels look lovely, and I think you'll agree this has a sort of upscale and athletic look going on, and that's the looks nodding to the way it drives. Slip in behind the wheel and the nicely finished cockpit presents itself, stitching and metal galore, nice soft touch points, and minimal control surfaces on the forward scenery, which means more focus on the craftsmanship. I did wonder if this climate control console shouldn't be just a little larger and more prominent, sort of, but otherwise, this interior is full of the sort of lines and flow and depth and that modern, clean look that you expect of a more premium buy. To put that another way, if you think $34,000 seems like a lot of money, well, wait until you see this interior in person. CX-30 is not the biggest, most powerful, or roomiest crossover for the dollar, but it does just dandy for the gals and fellas who really wanted a sporty, smaller all-wheel drive sedan, but need the extra room and clearance of a crossover instead. It is on the low and car-like side. You sit down into the cabin a little, bum dropping slightly into your seat instead of sliding straight over like in a taller machine. You feel like you're sitting behind most of the dashboard, not over top of it. The windshield is relatively slim, the headroom is adequate, not towering. Again, that's more car-like in the way the CX-30 surrounds you. The spirited small car feel extends to the driving experience and is perhaps most apparent on snow and ice. Mazda puts a lot of attention into giving their vehicles a distinctive and athletic feel on the road, and their modern all-wheel drive gives the engineers a way to extend that attention to how the CX-30 feels in challenging winter conditions. For instance, when you're driving carefully, the all-wheel drive works to quietly and smoothly extract whatever traction it can with as little fuss as possible from whatever surface you're trying to get moving on. From the driver's seat, that means just press the throttle and off you go without any drama or second thought. even a bit of climbing over slippery wet snow, with most of the CX-30's weight intentionally resting on just 3 wheels for this test, a moment of digging, and off she goes again with minimal drama. Point is, this all-wheel drive system is very effective at making sure you've got nothing extra to think about. Ditto the traction control system. It actually knows exactly how much wheel spin it can get away with before you notice any, and it uses that to its advantage. Engineers even programmed the throttle to make minuscule adjustments in sync with your steering inputs that help sharpen up the handling. Do watch the space though. Rear seats are just adult friendly, I'd say. You can certainly find a bigger back seat for your dollar. Cargo hold too. And though I like me a power tailgate, a tailgate this small begs to be manually whipped open and shut, but instead it's beeping and motors and waiting. So a car-like drive, car-like size in a lot of ways, Upscale looks inside and out, and no shortage of engineering and attention to detail in the dynamics department that makes sure you're having a good time, especially in sport mode with the revs up a little on an empty snow-covered road. So I'm going to put up a couple of shots. These are for the sportier drivers wondering how entertaining CX-30 might be in the context of a winding, snow-covered back road. And if you know what you're looking for, these shots will give you a good visual representation of the driving feel and character of the CX-30 in the snow at the hands of a sportier driver. And shout out to camera guy James for the camera work on these, capturing it in action. So we'll look at these shots a few times. You're going to see me making some very subtle inputs to the steering, the throttle, and the brakes. These are different ways that we can turn and slide and rotate the vehicle on its axis if we're driving around on a winding, snowy road. So here's the first shot. We'll play this a few times. You're going to see me just tap the brakes lightly at exactly the right moment. That takes a bit of weight off of the rear axle, and that causes just a little bit of a slide that lets me turn beautifully into that next corner. Here it is again. Just a little touch on the brakes, very subtle, but look how beautifully the car lines itself up for that next corner. And here's the second shot, and if you look closely, you'll see me make a subtle flick on the steering. And on board, I'm lifting my foot off the throttle, briefly tapping the brakes, and that initiates another slide, and it just goes beautifully around the corner again. And if you notice me grinning in any of that footage, it's because usually a crossover, especially at this price point, does not respond that convincingly or that quickly to those sportier driving inputs. It's all about picking up on your vibe. And if you're driving in a snowstorm, freezing rain, the type of situation where you're trying to be careful, the response you're going to get from the CX-30 is going to be more confidence inspiring and more locked down and connected to the road. However, if the vehicle picks up that your sportier side is coming out and you're trying to have a little bit of fun with it, you're going to get those sports car reflexes at the tips of your fingers and toes without having to dig for them. And that, to me, in years of reviewing all kinds of different Mazdas, is the sort of DNA that goes into what makes the car feel the way it does. And I think the sportier driver is going to appreciate that little bit of extra athletic, spirited feel at the tips of their fingers and toes. Attention to how the CX-30 feels is the first of several attributes that make this machine highly suitable for use in more extreme winter conditions common in and around Sudbury, Ontario, where I live. With CX-30 calibrated to give drivers a high level of feedback and responsiveness, drivers get a heightened sense of the connection between the vehicle and the road surface, meaning a skilled driver can detect changing traction through the CX-30's steering or chassis by way of minuscule squirms or slips that often get absorbed by the softer setups of less athletic machines. The lighting system is fantastic. LED-fired adaptive lights steer into corners and soak the scenery ahead with top-notch illumination. This lighting system is a great example of the trend of high-performance lighting tech arriving in more affordable vehicles than ever. And finally, look at this wiper system. The nipples on each wiper arm are mounted just above the blade, right above the glass. That means there's no wasted spray, the glass is cleaner faster, and not a drop of juice is wasted, meaning less time filling that jug at 20 below. Let's meet this episode's guest star, the Subaru Crosstrek. It's like the CX-30 in a lot of ways, but very different in others. Still, I think test driving both of these machines, if you're shopping in this universe, is a good idea because they're sort of two different ends of the spectrum. For instance, my biggest complaint of the CX-30 was the ride on the sort of very rough roads that we have a lot of around here. Really bad roads leave CX-30 feeling a bit too sporty, I think, harsh and noisy at times, and some shoppers will wish for a smoother, quieter ride if they spend a lot of time on camp roads or rougher surfaces. The Subaru Crosstrek is a champ on those roads. Now, it doesn't match the CX-30's sporty feel in terms of handling or response from the driveline, but it is a lazy boy over the sort of surfaces that send the CX-30's ride comfort downhill. You're looking at that elemental trade-off. I would tell you this is probably the most comfortable crossover in this ballpark that I've ever driven on these roads, and that this is one of the most fun to drive crossovers in this ballpark, but not one of your best choices for rough road ride quality. We'll dig into more of the differences between these machines in another video. I think they are two of my favorites for a variety of different reasons. And so to sum up the CX-30, I think if you're okay with the ride on rougher surfaces and you literally want something sleek and sporty, well, this machine's going to show you a good time. Until next time, my name's Justin Pritchard. Take care and drive safe.